Okay, thank you. At this point, public comment related to the agenda. Madam Clerk.
Madam Chair, no one has signed in to speak.
Thank you very much. Okay, to the colleagues, we have our June 28th meeting minutes in the packet. Do I have any motion to approve those minutes? Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. June 8th, 2011 meeting minutes are approved, and at this point we're going to turn our attention to the county message from our county executive who doesn't appear to be here today. But do we have somebody in his stead who's willing to give us a message?
Yes, good evening, Madam Vice President. I am the double for the county executive. No, I'm not. County Executive Fitzgerald was not able to be here today, but you will find within the within the packet, items that have been approved in the month of June, as far as contracts, purchases, sales, amendments, and so forth. So you will find that within their packet, but also, if permitted, we would like to take this opportunity for Special Assistant David Merriman to give an update on the Metro Health Task Force at this time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much, Madam President, or Vice President in this case. My thanks to Council for the opportunity to present the initial findings of the Metro Health Task Force. Over the past month, we've been meeting with the administrative staff, with Metro Health staff, and with Council to find ways to support Metro to more effectively engage with the public and to support their hospital's board and administrative communication with the public, as well as on how to improve communications with the county and to support one another's operations. We've developed some initial recommendations. They did go out today. I'd be happy to review them just briefly, but if I could say, these recommendations, we hope, will establish a platform for sustained and meaningful communication, and we look forward to working with Metro on follow-up recommendations and to support their efforts to improve their operational functions. The 5 general areas that we did review related to transparency, information reliability, contracting and procurement, employee and vendor ethics, and policy and procedures, especially relating to communications and county approvals. I'd be happy to go into them now or at a later date. I'd also be happy to take any questions. What would you?
Councilman Brady. Thank you very much. Councilman Brady.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. If the Council would indulge me, I would prefer Mr. Merriman testify to the Health and Human Services Committee, given the rest of the calendar that's in front of us this evening.
Councilman Brady, do you have any idea when that would be taking place?
We will schedule it after we speak with Mr. Merriman about when he's available.
Okay, that's fine, unless anyone else on council has any questions regarding the Metro Health points. Councilman Miller, do you have any question? To my left. Okay, at this point, we'll wait to hear the full explanation and detail in committee.
Be glad to. Thank you very much.
Is there anything else from the executive?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, to call the roll for Mr. Jones.
Welcome.
Councilman Jones, in your absence, your colleagues have made a motion to excuse the absences of Council President Conley and Council Member Schron, and they voted unanimously in the affirmative. Would you like to vote in that matter? In the affirmative? Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, thank you. We're going to move now to item number 8 on the agenda, and these are committee reporting consideration of motion of council for second reading, adoption under suspension of rules. And I'm going to move at this point that we suspend the rules pursuant to 9D. Do I have a second? Thank you very much. Madam Clerk? All in favor of suspending the rules? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So we'll begin with 2011-0040.
Motion number 2011-0040, a motion confirming the county executive's appointment of J.B. Silvers, Ph.D., to serve on the Metro Health System Board of Trustees and declaring the necessity that this motion become immediately effective.
Do I have a motion? Motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I would ask our councilwoman to speak to this. Yvonne Conwell?
Dr. Silver's confirmation to the Board of Metro Health Hospital was heard both in the Human Resources, Appointment and Equity, as well as the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee. Both committees felt Dr. Silvers would be a great addition to this board, and his extensive educational background and professional qualifications regarding his experience with finances and healthcare are a plus for Metro Hospital. And I was particularly impressed with this broad range of knowledge in healthcare and how it's moving and changing throughout our nation. So we both unanimously voted in for full council tonight.
Any questions or comments regarding the appointment? I will say that I sat in on the committee during the process and was extremely impressed with Dr. Silvers and what he's going to be able to bring to the Metro Board. I feel we're really honored to have somebody of that caliber on Metro Board. So at this point, if there's no questions or comments, I'm going to ask for a roll call, or ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the appointment carries. Number 9, consideration of resolutions for first reading under suspension of rules. Does anybody want to move to suspend rules pursuant to 9D and 12A?
So moved.
Councilman Miller.
Madam President, I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at 3 regular council meetings and Rule 12A requiring references to committee be suspended and that resolutions number 2011-0220 and 2011-0221 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Okay, all in favor of suspending the rules?
Aye.
Pardon me, oh, you did move, I'm sorry. Second,
Second.
okay. Any opposed? Roll call for all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, these rules are suspended, so we can proceed with the reading of 9A.
Okay. Madam Chair, if I may, I apologize. I failed to ask Councilman Jones if he would care to vote on the approval of the minutes of June 28th.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Resolution number 2011-0220, a resolution amending the 2011 annual appropriation measure by providing for additional fiscal appropriations from the general fund and other funding sources, for appropriation transfers between budget accounts and for cash transfers between budgetary funds in order to meet the budgetary needs of various county departments, offices, and agencies, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second? Okay, I'm seconding it. So this is our bi-weekly fiscal budgetary items, and if there's any questions regarding these items? Comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 0220 carried. Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2011-0221, a resolution authorizing awards on requisition number 19761 to various appraisers for 2012 sexennial reappraisal and annual maintenance, authorizing the county executive to enter into contracts consistent with said awards and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective for the providers in the amounts and for the time periods as printed on the agenda, items 1 through 3.
Move to adopt.
Second. Okay, Council, this matter is here before us under suspension of rules to determine whether the individuals listed below will be hired and move forward with conducting our appraisal process, which is our extensive appraisal process, which occurs every 6 years. We'll have these individuals on the ground doing the work comprehensively, and it's particularly important this time it's a sensitive time to be valuing our property values, both commercial and residential, because of the foreclosure crisis that we've endured, because of the vacant homes. It's a very sensitive time to be looking at properties. It's important that we stay on a schedule. At the same time, council would like, I think, some explanation of why this is, we're proceeding at this point under suspension. If our director can come forward and at least give us an explanation. Mr. Steen.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, members of council. The reason for the urgency, and we'll talk about the process, I hope, as far as how we made our selections, but the reason for the urgency is our plan of reappraisal has been approved by the state. To stay in compliance with that plan, and I think something that needs to be made known is that the state has full control over the reappraisal process. If they do not believe we're in compliance with the plan, they could assert their authority as the tax commissioner and take over the process themselves. And so to make sure that we're not allowing that to happen, because our plan is a good plan and it saves the county a lot of money, we want to make sure we meet that timeline. If I can, I think there was a question about the process, about how we came to the candidates that are before you this evening. Simply, we put out an RFQ, and all of the candidates that met the minimum standards of the RFQ came in for an interview. The interview process was designed by HR and conducted by HR with the appraisal side participating. Some of the questions that were asked during the interview were as follows. Are there areas of the county that you would not work in? Clearly, we would expect a certain answer, and that would be they would be willing to work in all areas of the county. If people did not want to work in certain areas, that was limiting their ability to serve us. We asked them how many days they would devote to the process, and we asked them what they felt their strengths were. Those were all scored. After the interviews were scored, they were sent to the executive's office for a pre-screen. One of the limiting factors was if one of the candidates had got to that level and they had taken the early retirement buyout within the last 3 years, part of that buyout was that you could not go back to employment with the county, so those candidates were eliminated. There was also an internal process that involved looking at tax liens, foreclosures, and other matters to see if there were any of those in the candidate's background. If they passed that, they went to the next level of screen, which was a drug and background screen as conducted for all county employees. If they passed that, then they were brought forward. They've had ethics training. They've signed anti-nepotism documents, and the candidates we have before you are ready to go. But that's how we got to the candidates we have this evening. All of the candidates before you have passed through all those steps.
Thank you. Any questions, my colleagues?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Germano.
are these appraisers, are they considered employees or are they subcontractors?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, they're considered subcontractors.
Councilman Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Steen. I'm wondering, when were the interviews and background checks concluded?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, the screening for the industrial appraisers occurred in early May. For the residential appraisers, occurred in late May to early June. The interviews were conducted at about that same time, a little bit thereafter, and then they were sent up, and I hope I have the time frame right. They were sent up after they passed through that to the executive's office, and the executive did a screen, and then they came down, and then they were drug screened and background checked after that. So I think it's all happened within about the last 30 to 45 days. It's been on a pretty fast track to try to get these processed.
Madam Chairperson.
Well,
Sorry.
Mr.
I have a few questions, Madam President. Thank you. You said in order to be in compliance with the state that we have to have these people in place by a certain time, but there was nothing indicated on when they need to be in place.
Madam Vice President, to the council member, the plan that was submitted, I guess I should back up. The county's plan was drafted in about February or March and submitted to the state, to the tax commissioner. There was some dialogue between the tax commissioner and the county. The plan was officially approved on April 18th of 2011. And in that plan, it lays out the number of appraisers you will have in the field and at what time. Because there is some, I think, belief by some in Columbus and in the tax commissioner's office that maybe we can't do this. It's not been done this way before, where you manage a process like this with subcontractors. It's going to generate substantial savings. But so that we don't have any problems, we voluntarily agreed to report to the state every week how we're progressing in terms of our progress. One of the things they're monitoring is how many people are actually out doing the appraisals, because they want to be sure that this can get done. And so when I talk about getting them into the field, that's the plan we're managing. But the candidates, I don't think would have been aware of what that time frame was. They were going through a process of, are you qualified? Did you pass the interview? Did you pass the background check? Did you pass the drug screen?
So is there a specific date that we told the state that we'd have people in the field?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, yeah, there are specific dates that we would be putting numbers in the field. So they weren't all in the field. I'm sorry, council member. They weren't all in the field at the same time. It was by a certain date you would have this many, by another date you would have a certain number, and by another date you would have a certain number. And this will allow us, if we can get these appraisers in the field, it will allow us to meet that deadline. That's the reason for the urgency.
So what's the first deadline?
If I can, I'm going to ask for a copy of the plan. Okay. Okay. The first deadline to have appraisers in the field would have been the commercial, and that was the 18th of May. And then there are different deadlines in the plan that we've submitted to the state, and I would be glad to provide this to all the council members of when we're going to have what numbers of appraisers, be they commercial or residential, in the field.
The commercial's already in the field?
There are some commercial appraisers in the field, yes.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
No.
I know that Councilman Brady has a question, but do you want to?
I'm yield on it.
Will the, thank you. Will the, I noticed that several people are getting paid the same amount of money. Are they required to appraise the same number of properties?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, they're paid based upon whether or not, it depends on the type of parcel they're doing. It could be a residential parcel, a high-end residential parcel. They could be a commercial appraiser, an industrial specialist, or they could even be doing heavy industrial. And depending on what type of parcel, each parcel generates a different dollar amount. And so there's a number of parcels at each level that dictates how much they're paid. And the amount listed is they're not to exceed. If they do all the parcels that they've committed to doing, that's what they would be paid in total.
I have one final question. As I was looking through the summary of the interviews and the interview scores, I noticed that there are several people that have scored well, appear to have met the minimum qualifications. They have the appropriate licensing, yet for some reason or another, they were not chosen to advance to the next level. And I'm wondering why those discrepancies exist.
Madam Vice President, to the council member, without telling you individuals, although I would be glad to, some had tax liens, some had foreclosures. One I know was related to a DUI, a recent DUI, and so we had some concern about someone driving around the county doing appraisal work on behalf of the county who's recently been convicted of a DUI. So it would be those kind of factors that might have taken a candidate that had a good score out of moving forward.
One more follow-up. I'm sorry. Are there people that are still under consideration? Are there, once we do this, are all the positions filled?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, actually, we do want to come back with some additional candidates. I know one had a tax lien situation that has since been resolved, and so we want to evaluate that candidate and allow them to be reconsidered because they were removed because they had an active tax lien at the time we were considering them. But they have addressed that situation.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Rogers, for those poignant questions. And to my right, Councilman Brady.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Director, we are contracting out with a variety of appraisers here. How many appraisers do we still have in-house?
Madam Vice President, to the council member, I apologize, I can't tell you the exact number. Those that are qualified to go out and do appraisal work that are currently county employees are also out in the field. But I can follow up and get you the exact number that we have. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson, this points out, I think, something that we need to work on. I raised a question several months ago about the fact that this appraisal process is very important. And I know the council was reluctant to create an additional committee since we have so many. But I was concerned that it was not, so to speak, parked anywhere and that it was so important. We dealt with this in an informal way, and I think that that has not been sufficient. That there are many questions around this appraisal and that it's very important for the council to be better informed about it. And we need to determine a way to monitor this process as it goes forward. I'm certainly willing to support this legislation this evening, understanding the deadlines that the county is under. But as a council, I believe we need to find a way to more closely monitor this process in order to provide proper oversight.
Councilman Brady, I don't disagree with that. In fact, we can look towards perhaps at least monthly, or if not at every council meeting, to come in with an update. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be receiving that as an entire council to see where we are and where we need to go to make sure we're on track, because it has been so sensitively timed.
Madam Vice President, so
yes.
Would you like us to then report at every council meeting?
I'm going to defer and wait for our council president to return, but I would just suggest that perhaps that's not a bad option, because the entire council then can pose questions and we can see where you are at least each month. So any questions or comments from the colleagues? I do. I just want to see what going forward looks like. What's the plan and what should we be looking for in terms of benchmarks?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table and we have a second. So at this point, I'm going to ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. This carries. 0221 carries. The next item is number 10, which is an executive session item, which I'm going to move to the end of the agenda in order for us at least to moving it into executive session. So at this point, number 11 is consideration of resolutions for first reading and referral to committee. Madam Clerk, can we start with 0223?
Yes, Madam Chair. Resolution number 2011-0223, a resolution declaring that public convenience and welfare requires resurfacing of Taylor Road from Euclid Avenue to the East Cleveland South Corporation line in the city of East Cleveland. Total estimated construction cost $1,375,000. Finding that special assessments are not to be levied and collected to pay for any part of the county's costs of said improvement, and authorizing the county executive to enter into an agreement of cooperation with City of East Cleveland in connection with said project.
It's a referral to committee, but thanks anyways. The next time, we're going to send that to Mr. Jones's Public Works Committee.
Resolution number 2011-0224, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into an agreement of cooperation with Village of Bracknell for replacement of Lakeshore Boulevard, Bridge number 188.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0225, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a local public agency agreement with Ohio Department of Transportation for local replacement and rehabilitation of the following bridges: Miles Road Bridge over the Chagrin River in the city of Bentleyville, Monticello Boulevard Bridge over the Rocky River in the city of North Olmsted, Hilliard Road Bridge over the Rocky River in the city of Lakewood, and Cedar Point Road Bridge over the over the West Branch of the Euclid Creek in the city of North Olmsted, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Miller, I wanted to state that there's a need to amend this particular resolution because there's an error, and at this point, we have in front of us resolution as amended, and ask at this point if Councilman Miller would like to address that. Please proceed.
Okay. Madam President, I move to amend this legislation in the form that has been distributed to all members. The clerk brought to my attention that this legislation, as introduced, contains some technical errors, and we would like to get those corrected right from the outset so that it can be published and go out in its proper form. So I make that motion to amend.
Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so at this point, I'm going to, and just for the clarification is just correcting which bridge is over which creek. So we can look to see that Monticello Bridge is over Euclid Creek, and that there's Cedar Point Bridge is over Rocky River. So that was the correction, and that's going to go into Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0226, a resolution authorizing the county executive to approve an additional settlement in the amount of $150 in connection with the appropriation of property rights for the grading, draining, and paving of Bainbridge Road from Somme Center Road to the Solon East Corporation line in the city of Solon for parcel number 113T, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0227, a resolution authorizing the county executive to approve an additional settlement in the amount of $310 in connection with the appropriation of property rights for the grading, draining, and paving of Bainbridge Road from Somme Center Road to the Solon East Corporation line in the city of Solon for parcel number 129T, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0228, a resolution authorizing an award on requisition number 19570 to Town Center Construction in the amount of $360,900 for construction of an energy center at the Cuyahoga County Fairgrounds in connection with the Fairgrounds Wind Turbine Project, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Economic Development and Sustainability.
Resolution number 2011-0229, a resolution amending resolution number R 2011-0034, dated January 25, 2011, which authorized an economic development loan in the amount not to exceed $800,000 for construction of a facility to be located on Cornell Road, Cleveland, to change the name of the borrower from SDC University Circle Developer LLC to SDC University Circle LLC, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Economic Development.
Resolution number 2011-0230, a resolution authorizing a Brownfields Redevelopment Fund loan in the amount not to exceed $1 million to Maselli Lagrasso Development 3 LLC for a Phase 2 expansion project located at 2800 East 90th Street, Cleveland, authorizing the Director or Deputy Chief of Staff to execute all documents required in connection with said loan, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Economic Development.
Resolution number 2011-0231, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Toshiba Business Solutions, Ohio, in the amount of $4 million for countywide enterprise digital and print management services using green-friendly technology for the period July 1, 2011 through June 30, 2016, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Finance Committee.
Resolution number 2011-0232, a resolution authorizing the county executive, Office of Procurement and Diversity, to participate in the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program for the period May 1, 2011 through April 30, 2013, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 5513.01B, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Public Works.
Resolution number 2011-0233, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Berea Children's Home in the amount not to exceed $507,600 for community-based treatment center management services for the period January 1, 2011 through June 30, 2011, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
This is going to Justice Affairs because it involves juvenile court.
Resolution number 2011-0234, a resolution authorizing an award on requisition number 19343 to First Energy Solutions in the amount of $5,500,000 for the purchase of electric utility services for county-owned facilities for the period June 1, 2011 through May 31, 2012, authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract consistent with said award and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Public Works. Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Vice President, I have just a request. Since I don't serve on Public Works, when item F, Resolution 2011-0228, comes back at committee, would it be possible for us to have an overview of that project, the wind turbine projects at the county fairgrounds? We can see what's been approved in total, what's left, and where the project is overall.
Yes,
It went to economic development.
and the Sustainability Committee. Are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
Which one?
I'm sorry. Item F. Where did you assign? I thought that went to Public Works. No.
That went to Economic Development and
Okay.
Sustainability, but absolutely, I can
Okay.
send your request over to the committee and the president, and we can actually be updated with
Great.
that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, next item is 12, and committee reports and consideration of resolutions for second reading, adoption under suspension of rules. I move pursuant to Rule 9D that 2011-0212 and 0218 and 0219, that we suspend the rules to move forward with adoption.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Resolution number 2011-0212, a resolution amending resolution number R 2011-0087, dated March 8, 2011, which amended the 2011 annual appropriation measure by approving additional appropriation decreases to rescind a decrease in appropriations and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt. Any questions? This is a budget matter, finance. Councilman Miller, do you have any?
Madam President, this is an item involving the juvenile court, and there was a change in the funding source for these services, and we needed to rescind an appropriation decrease so that the original funding source could fund these services, and there is no cost to the general fund involved.
Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 0212 carries. The next item, Madam Clerk, please.
Resolution number 2011-0218, a resolution adopting the annual tax budget, including the Cuyahoga County Library budget for the year 2012, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Adopt.
Councilman Miller, if this is another budget item.
Madam President and my colleagues, the tax budget is an exercise that we go through to document that the county has anticipated expenditures that warrant the levying of the taxes that we levy to help fund them. And there was nothing in the tax budget that is inconsistent with the presentations that we've received in terms of the updating of the county's financial condition, and I would ask for approval.
Any questions or comments? None being had. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 0218 carries. The next item, Madam Clerk. 0219.
Resolution number 2011-0219, a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into a contract with Emerald Development and Economic Network Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $1,325,520 for the Shelter Plus Care sponsor-based rental assistance program in connection with the fiscal year 2009 Continuum of Care homeless assistance programs for the period December 1, 2010 through November 30, 2015, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Second.
Thank you. Councilwoman Conwell.
This contract is for rental assistance for the Eden program, and when it was presented to the Health and Human Services Committee, it was stated that the $1.3 are solely federally funded from the Housing and Urban Development Department, and it will provide rent subsidies to the homeless persons with disabilities who otherwise would continue to live on the street or in the shelter. So I ask for approval.
Thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Okay, move forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 0219 carries. The next item is consideration of ordinances for first reading and referral to committee. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2011-0029, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2011-0016 to establish the organizational structure of the Department of Law.
Justice Affairs.
Ordinance number 2011-0030, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2011-0014, establishing the Board of Control, establishing procedures governing the making of county contracts and the purchasing of county supplies and equipment, providing procedures for the making of public improvements, establishing procedures under which the county executive may employ experts and consultants in connection with the administration of the affairs of the county, and declaring the necessity that this ordinance become immediately effective.
Public Works.
President.
Councilman Miller.
Madam President and my colleagues, this ordinance, which has been referred to committee, makes technical corrections in the contracting and procurement ordinance. It was written by the administration with consultation by me. It does such things as stating more explicitly that the administration may issue RFPs and apply for and accept grants without council legislation. People were looking for resolutions, which were unnecessary under this ordinance. It also tweaks the definition of sole source services and the determination of the value of contracts with multiple vendors and such things. It's mostly routine, but may be modified a bit in committee, and the law director is expected to come in with a few additional minor suggestions, so that's what it does.
Thank you. That will go to Public Works. Next item on the agenda is 14, committee report and consideration of an ordinance for second reading, adoption under suspension of rules. I'm going to move pursuant to Rule D that that 0027 and 0027, we suspend the rules for adoption of this ordinance. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 2011-0027, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2011-0010 to establish divisions and sections within the Department of Public Works.
I'm going to ask that move to adopt.
Second.
And Mr. Jones. Councilman Jones, do you want to speak to this? It's your committee.
This ordinance is one that, again, creates divisions and sections within the Public Works Department. As we know, the charter gives that authority to council to do. This has been an ordinance that is we've been working on for several weeks between the administration and the council staff, and they've done an excellent job of putting this forward. And I ask that our council approve it.
Thank you very much for looking at that so closely in your committee with our Public Works Director as well, Bonnie T1. Thank you. Are there any questions about this? Any comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 0027 carries. At this point, I would ask my colleagues if they have any miscellaneous committee reports.
Madam
To my right,
President.
Councilman Miller.
Madam President, the mid-year budget process continues this week. We have a committee tomorrow, and there will be a long agenda. I ask all of my colleagues to please be prompt for the 10 o'clock meeting. There will be 2 other meetings later in this week in Health and Human Services and in Justice Affairs, so those chairpersons can mention those meetings. I would like to mention one other thing, which is at the Finance and Budget Committee meeting that is scheduled for Monday is going to be moved up 1 hour to start at 12 noon instead of 1 o'clock. And the reason why that is because Economic Development delayed its meeting from its regular time, which would have been last week, to 3 o'clock this Monday. And I know that it's a very important meeting with the Economic Development plan close to being time for its approval. And we don't want to impinge on their time, so we want to get started at noon on Monday, the 18th, 1 week from today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And to my right, Councilman Greenspan.
Thank you. The Ethics Committee will have our next meeting, mark your calendars, August 9th. At that time, we will address the public meetings ordinance, which is before us, as well as the pending campaign finance legislation coming out of the law department.
Thank you very much. Anyone else to my right? Gentlemen? Okay, to my left, Councilman Rogers.
President, the Environment and Sustainability Committee will be meeting on this Friday at 1 o'clock, and we'll be discussing recommendations from Policy Matters on ideas that they have on how the county can be more earth-friendly and sustainable.
Thank you. Did you want to speak to the Emerald discussion?
Sure. That's another item that will also be on the agenda. Some members of the council as well as members of the administration met today with a group called Emerald Cities, and they're a national nonprofit organization that works to do 2 main things, primarily to have government buildings and private sector buildings become more energy efficient. And they also have a workforce development piece where they look to identify people in poor communities, people that have been laid off, get them into job training programs so they're able to actually fill the jobs that are going to be necessary to retrofit these buildings. So we had a very productive meeting today. We're going to follow up with some additional conversations in our Sustainability Committee meeting on Friday. So I encourage all the members of council, if you're available, to attend, and members of the public as well. I think it should be an interesting conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Jones.
And our Public Works Committee meeting will be at its regular time of 11 o'clock this Thursday.
Okay, and I do have a committee meeting, Justice Affairs, this Friday, and we're going to be reviewing the prosecutor's budget as well as our law department's budget, and perhaps as well the structure of the law department.
11:30.
Correct. Miscellaneous business?
Madam Vice President. Yes. I would like to share with my colleagues that we have young residents from all over this county as well as Northeast Ohio in a program called Young Audiences Artworks, and that was how I started my day today. And they're in a 6-week program that pays them to work in various fields of art, and it has an educational component for the students as well, and as well as various guest speakers share information with the students that will impact their adult lives. Workshops are provided during this 6-week program to teach professionalism in the workplace, team building, etc., and an economic impact because the students learn how to sell their artwork and the proceeds go back to the program. So I would recommend that you all try and stop by in the next 2 weeks and experience their hard work and talent. because they sung for me, the guys and the women. So it started my day off great today.
Maybe they can come in and sing for us here. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, people. Miscellaneous business? Council members? Public comment unrelated to the agenda. Madam Clerk, has anyone signed up?
No, no one has signed up, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Thank you. So we're going to move back to item 10, and I'm going to ask Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell, are you prepared to speak to suspension of rules on item 10?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that Rule 9D requiring ordinances and resolutions to be read at 3 regular council meetings and Rule 12A requiring reference to committee be suspended, and that resolution R2011-0222 be considered for final passage at tonight's meeting.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and it's been seconded. All in favor of suspension of rules?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, rules are suspended. At this point, I would ask our clerk to read 0222. No? We're going to, well, I think I want to read it. I want it read.
Resolution number 2011-0222, a resolution either accepting or rejecting the findings and recommendations of a fact finder concerning negotiations between the county and the Service Employees International Union, District 1199, for 2011 wage reopener negotiations covering approximately 123 employees and 9 classifications in the Department of Public Works, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, for reading that for the first time. I just wanted it read for the record and ask our law director if this item is appropriate for executive session.
It definitely is appropriate for executive session, and would like to go into executive session. If 2 things I would point out: if a motion is made to go into executive session, that it be specific, that it's for purposes of it's collective bargaining matters, and to state the name of the bargaining unit, which is SEIU 1199 in the body of the motion, which would require roll call. And number 2, once we go into executive session, I would recommend inviting the Director of Public Works, because this is in her department, to attend the executive session.
Thank you very much, Mr. Law Director. So at this point, I am going to move that we move into executive session for purposes of to discuss 0222, which involves collective bargaining and personnel, and that we go into executive session for that limited and sole purpose as it relates to the collective bargaining with regard to SEIU 1199. So
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved, it's been seconded, and we do need a roll call to move into executive session, Madam Clerk.
Moving to executive session, Ms. Conwell?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Greenspan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Brady?
Yes.
Mr. Germana?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The time now is 6:55, and Council's going to be moving into executive session, and we'll be coming out after that executive session to vote. We do not vote inside that session, so we would ask at this point if people could move out except for our Public Works Director and our clerk and our law director.
And the executive's representative to report back to the executive.
Okay.
That's within the council.
Whoever's here to speak to that.